Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Highbury Squad. Good evening, everyone, and thanks to those who are joining us in live chat. And also at a time like this, we know that probably most of our listeners will be enjoying this on replay, but we had to get a show out tonight because there are a good few things that we hadn't had a chance to talk about with Super Kev. And welcome to the show, bro. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Soph, I'm really good.
I've got my red and white shield on. Back in the day, do you remember the old Von Dutch craze?
Yeah, I remember Von Dutch back in the day.
I turn it around the other way now just so it looks like a little bit of an Arsenal
Nice.
thing. By the way,
Nice.
KC, grey hairs, you know, we like to do laundry lists on the show as well. Trying to mask the grey hairs, got to take care of those this week. You, my friend, seem to look younger and younger. Don't see any grey hairs over there.
There's grey there. Trust me, there's grey.
Well, listen, you have just gotten back from Spain
Yes.
after covering La Liga for the weekend. Just before we get stuck into getting your thoughts on Man City versus Arsenal and the other items on our agenda, crazy La Liga season to start with. Barcelona and Real Madrid don't register a score. The first time in 20 years, I think that's happened. I think Real Madrid lost to Cadiz, the promoted side. And did they beat Barcelona too, Cadiz, or no? But poor quality, right?
Getafe beat Barcelona.
Uh-huh.
And Cadiz earlier on that day beat Real Madrid at Real Madrid. So they play at the training ground because their ground's getting refurbished. So
Wow.
Yeah, I tell you what. So, you know, I'm sure we're going to cover what broke on the news today regarding the European League.
Yes.
Here's a question for everybody. When's the last time Real Madrid never signed a star? In the summer, in the break, in the gap.
whole Galactico program. You know what? This is probably the first season, isn't it?
Never signed anybody.
20 years.
People left, but never signed anybody.
They didn't get Mbappe.
No. They're saying about next year.
Financially, is there a bigger issue financially there? That obviously we understand the debt that they have, and Barcelona.
This is the point I'm making. So I'm telling you now, there's a lot of these clubs who have been flush in the past, and they've bought everything that moved, and then all of a sudden they're hitting the brick wall.
So, KC, because I was listening to a very engaging conversation today with you and Hilsey. It's always engaging with Hilsey on the European Super League. And do you mind we go to that first, because of you're just off the plane, literally landed 10 minutes ago in Manchester and have made the show. And I'd like to go there first before we go to the Arsenal stuff, because there's a good few things I want to try and get your opinion on.
Yeah.
Has COVID escalated what we know the likes of maybe Juventus really being the pioneers of it, but the fact that Liverpool and Manchester United is so engaged in this European Super League, and when you see clubs like Barcelona and Real Madrid dealing with so much debt, and you bring up a great point about them not signing any Galacticos, can you talk us through a little bit about what you know on the European Super League, what that means for Premier League teams, the top six, and everybody else? Let's start there.
Well, do I know it, or is it more of an opinion, things I've heard? You know, when you actually work out in Spain and, you know, you rub shoulders with certain people, you know, little rumors start coming out. And this has been touted around for, what is it, about a decade, Sophie?
Yes.
This has been touted about, but because of the Premier League being so powerful, and, you know, at one stage the bottom club got 60 million and the team who won it got 100. Now the team who finished bottom get 100, and the team who win it get like 160. This is just to start with. Now we're seeing the monster, and that sort of money is not enough. teams around Europe obviously used to be very flush with their TV money. Now they're not flush anymore because times are changing, financial fair play, etc., etc. The big clubs don't want to adhere to that. So how do you get around it? You get around it by calling your own tune in your own league where nobody gets relegated. And all the teams start off probably with 250, 300 million a season, Sophie. Now you're talking, now you are talking serious money. So domestically, will you even be in the same league? I can't see it. If you are in the same league, what do you reckon the big clubs are going to do? The big clubs are going to prioritize the European league, aren't they? They're not going to risk their top players in the domestic league, the Premier League, so to speak, or their domestic leagues. They're going to save their better players for the European League, which is the most lucrative. So we're at a crossroads there, Sophie, and I really mean that. We are at a crossroads because here's why I say we're at a crossroads. Because the teams who operate in the European League, because they're going to prioritize the European League, me personally, I can't see them operating two squads. Do you understand what I mean? So because they can't be in the Premier League and the European League.
So the idea is the Champions League still in existence as well?
Well, I can't see it. I can't see how.
There can't be. So in essence, the European Super League would potentially replace the Champions League, but then Serie A, La Liga, Liga, Bundesliga, Premier League continue with the same teams participating in those leagues also. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, Sophie. This is the crossroads. If you're at Arsenal, you're a Manchester United, you're a Liverpool, you're one of the big boys, because now we're talking about the globe now. Now, whether fans like it or not, do you remember on our last pod, I think I said it's going to happen. Make no mistake, it's going to happen. These clubs are going to bask in the glory of having, the banks are going to be full again. The Premier League, if it's 5 clubs out of the Premier League, they're going to be out of the Premier League, Soph. They're not going to be in the Premier League. I can't see them being in the Premier League. I can't see them being in. Obviously, they're not going to be in any cup competitions because they're not even going to be in the league. I can't see them running 2 squads because that's going to be a drain on that money. So they're going to have to concentrate on one thing. Then probably in that league, they're going to have a cup competition, aren't they? In the European League, you're going to have a cup competition because you can't then play the other leagues because it makes no sense.
Here's the one thing that I know doesn't work when it comes to the end of the season in terms of striving, fighting, and having true competitiveness. And that is having been in the United States for a long time, Casey. There's no relegation in sports here. Yeah. You've got all the divisions set in the NFL, in Major League Baseball, in the NHL, basketball in MLS, right? And now MLS has grown exponentially over the last 5 years with all of the new additions of the teams, and there's still new teams coming. There's 2 divisions, the Eastern and Western. There's a lot of discussion about breaking those up even as well. And you have the USL as part of MLS, and USL has kind of, Landon Donovan's team in San Diego. They have LA Galaxy too. They have all of the secondary teams. And fans always argue about how it gets to a certain point in the season and you don't have that battle for relegation. European football has been born and bred on fighting for something greater than yourself, in the sense that if we even go back to Division 1, 2, 3, 4, right, Casey? Yep. When your career first started out, and then we go to the infusion of the Premier League in 92, and then we develop the Championship, League 1, League 2, and then you have the non-league teams that strive for that fight to get into league football.
course.
instead of non-league football. This is part of our game. Why
Part
do
of
we
the
have
culture. It's part of the culture.
How do we sacrifice that for and the discussions that we had a week ago? Do you remember where we were talking about losing the Community Shield and the League Cup? With the infusion of something like this, those are the sacrifices that are going to be made.
Well,
and at the
Sophie,
go on.
Listen. I'm going to play both sides here because I think this could be the best thing to ever happen. Because the monsters, because the money monsters who are chasing the global buck, they're going to go off and do their own thing anyway. So the same road that the Premier League took to oust the Football League
in 92.
In 92 is the same thing the chicken is gonna come home to roost for the Premier League. Because you take the top 5 or 6 out of the Premier League isn't the same.
So does Arsenal become part of this plan?
Of course they do. Of course they do. If Arsenal opt out, think about it. If you go into the European League, you can't get relegated for 20 years. 20 years. So what is that doing to you?
Who's not signing up for that, Casey?
Sorry?
Who isn't signing? Which club is not signing up for that?
Listen, at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't think anybody will turn it down. But my point is this, Sophie. You take, let's say there were 6 clubs. There were 6 clubs who went into this European League. And obviously then another 6 clubs would have to come up from the Championship, won't they? Don't forget, the Championship has probably 14 teams who's been part of the Premier League before.
Right.
So the fan base would come back. And I know it's not the same as the big 6, but the big 6 are monsters. Now the Premier League have to market it properly again. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now the Premier League, the parity in the Premier League is a lot more normal. Everyone could beat everyone. You don't know who's going to win it, etc., etc. And then obviously the championships get filled. And that then could create that tier system that is sustainable to help everybody from Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two, and then filter down to the non-league clubs to help them. You know, we're talking about through this pandemic, there should be a fund to help all these clubs. Now we can structure something to help them. The Premier League will be out of it because the big boys have left. Now everybody would have to negotiate and come together and say, right, this is for the benefit. The FA Cup will have its luster back. The Community Shield will have his luster back. The League Cup would have his luster back. Because if we're honest, Sophie, it's the big teams who don't take the League Cup serious. It's the big teams who sometimes don't take the FA Cup serious until they're ready. So I think it could be the best thing to ever happen.
So what about Mike's question about would TV deals drop? Okay, so let's...
Of course it will. Of course it will drop. But here's the beauty of... Fair enough. It's the big boys who get most of the money anyway, because they're usually on TV most of the time. So think about it. The teams that are in the Championship get an upgrade of money because now it's the Premier League. And it may not be the same money, but you know what? You are getting more. You are getting more money. And then it filters down. It could be more of a structure that is fairer. So
okay, financially, yes. But it's KC, would you agree it's more of the American model of fairness in terms of in Spain, we see the way they distribute the TV deals and the rights, and Real Madrid and Barcelona definitely benefit more from that. In the US, there are bigger clubs that benefit more, but there is more of a level playing field, especially without the relegation promotion side. Is it veering more towards that or
but we're talking about Sophie, we're talking about 2 different things here, my darling. Let me just say this. It is the American model with the European Super League. It definitely is the European model. Okay, everyone's protected for 20 years. You imagine 20 years earning minimum 250 to 300 million. That's billions that's huge money. That's huge money. But what we're talking about is because that's really a breakaway now. So the Premier League sits across from it.
Right.
Now the Premier League
They're parallel.
sits parallel, and it's set up. It's got all the 4 divisions there, and then it's got the non-league, etc. So it's to really filter that money down, so it keeps doing good. Because you imagine after 20 years, who's going to want to drop out of the European League? Nobody.
Okay, but let me ask you this, Casey. So one of the things that I brought up that we loved is, and that we have loved, is the promotion relegation fight. So,
which will still happen in the Premier League,
in the Premier League and the Championship, and then the other European leagues,
and the other European leagues, but the elitist league. Yeah, that elite league. You're locked in for 20 years, so nobody's getting in.
So so what's the criteria for getting in?
Well, we don't actually know.
We don't know.
No, so you imagine. So if you're a team, if they say, right, in 21 years' time, the team who wins the Premier League, or the team who finished top 2 in the Premier League, get a chance to come in the European League. Let's say you've won it. Let's say 21 years. Let's say you've won it 10 times, but you don't win it at that time. What's the point?
Wow.
It makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense.
It's something that I think fans are going to have to get their head round, and we're going to need to have more info and intel on it. But the fact that the big project thing that we talked about, that Liverpool and Manchester United were driving a couple of weeks ago, that got vetoed by the other Premier League teams. Now we're seeing what Liverpool and Manchester United are doing in terms of what the Agnelli family owners and Juventus have been trying to do for a long time. And I mentioned Charlie Stilitano, who hosts the International Champions Cup, that started off here in the United States and now has become a global thing, who wanted the Champions League to become the same teams every year, i.e. the big boys from Italy, Spain, England, France, Germany, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know this is driven by money, the dollar. There's nothing else to it, right? But the fan also becomes the guinea pig again. You have to come along for the ride.
Yeah, you've got no choice.
You've got no choice.
But you know what, Sophie? Do you know, I see something like, when you actually look at the Premier League again, I think it could really get back to how things used to be, where you get full stadiums, where you get more 3 o'clock kickoffs, etc.
So more of a regular schedule and regime that we had back in the day, because of the. Are we now not talking about adding another 30 games to the season?
Well, it's another 30 games. It won't be adding another 30 games, because I can't see them teams running 2 squads.
How can they do?
Have 2 squads. You can't, and so they will leave the Premier League. They would have to.
Can you imagine we live in a world where there's no Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea in the Premier League? Are we talking that's a possibility, Kev?
100%.
Now, I understand the world 10 years ago moved towards globalization. You and I are also involved in businesses, and we get that this has been something that's been part of our culture and our professional lives over the last 10 years, from outsourcing to connecting on a global level through technology. And we've adored and loved all of that stuff. But at some point, how do we also then sustain our football culture, Casey, from where it was born and bred? That's not a nationalistic point of view, is it? Not just a
No, it's a genuine, it's an honest, right? It's an honest one. And you are so right, Sophie, to bring that up, because when you are when you're a true fan, we're true fans. Everybody out there, we care, we hurt when the team messes up, etc., 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 etc. It's only because we're genuine. We genuinely care. But the problem is, you see, Sophie, the monster needs to be fed. And the monster hasn't got no empathy, no sympathy, doesn't care. It does not care.
Look at Abby Oden's comment, and also Mike and Lee and James and a whole bunch of other people in our chat right now bringing up some phenomenal points and questions for UKC. Is this a case of Messi's career is coming to an end, really, in Barcelona? Ronaldo left La Liga. La Liga was El Clasico has always been one of the biggest tickets in world football. Ronaldo and Messi made that happen. The Premier League, through money and marketing dollars, just like Nike and the Just Do It swish, you invest and you create something that you make people want to watch. But they back that up by signing some of the biggest players in the world. Is this a sense of them seeing that there are some legends who are fading and they need to go back to the essence of the game versus the players became the power? When you were playing, the managers and the clubs had the power, didn't they? A little bit like Hollywood during the silver screen time when I studied it. You know, back in the day, 20th Century Fox, Paramount Pictures, MGM, they had the power over the stars. Yes. And then the agents came in and they overtook the business and controlled it. Do you think there's a similar pattern here with that, Casey?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is a similar pattern here. You know, the clubs. Listen, the Premier League had the power in '92 because it kind of started a breakaway. How does this sound? It started a breakaway away from the Football League. For League 1, League 2, League 3, League 4. It was 4 divisions, and the Premier League got in behind, spoke to all the major players, and broke away. Now, forward 28 years. Now they're talking about a breakaway European League, which the Premier League will not be a part of, obviously. Now, it's going to be difficult for the Premier League. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for the Premier League to stomach it, because I could imagine they're going to be thinking, right, well, what are we gonna do? Because you got, probably there's going to have to be a renegotiation of TV rights, etc., etc., etc. But it might cause, like I say, it might cause football to go back to more of an original feel. I think that's really important. I think
what Anne's saying here is fundamental too, is that the Champions League bred this, didn't it, really? It was the start of getting to this point.
It's a bit of everything, isn't it? It's a bit of everything where, you know, you see the Premier League start and it becomes the envy of a lot of these European teams because the money is so flush and it's global and all that kind of thing. And then the Champions League cotton on and they start, whereas it was a straight knockout, all of a sudden, you know, you got the music and you got the groups and you got the knockout stages and you got everybody involved with it midweek.
The showbiz
razzmatazz, and it's big money. Whenever Arsenal, we've missed out. What is it? The last 3 years, you know, we've missed out on it. It's affecting the football club.
Absolutely,
because we haven't got that revenue. Yeah, we haven't got that revenue. So, if you're Arsenal and you want to stay up there, do you stay in the Premier League where you can miss out, or do you go into the European Super League where you're flush with 250, 300 million a season, and you can go and get play. You can go and do what you want. All of the clubs could go and do what they want. So it's a no-brainer, really, isn't it? It really is a no-brainer. And it's like I say, it's a crossroads. If it goes for the good of the game, Sophie, and it helps the Premier League stay what it is, maybe not as rich, but it still helps the clubs to do what they're doing, and it filters down, it can be a good crossroads. But if the big boys just run away and the Premier League, who knows what would happen with the Premier League? It could be a bad thing.
This is crazy. We're living in crazy new times. And, when you're part of history making in your generation and your moments, I remember feeling that not the world was going to end, but do you remember the concerns about the Premier League coming in and Division One? I remember that as a
Yeah.
fan. I was obviously a lot younger at the time and just trying to make my way in the entertainment and sports arena. And in the end, I remember working at 20th Century Fox in 92, and I got to work on the first ever DVD release of the
Wow.
Premier League, and I got to write all the copy on the back of the DVDs for the first 2 or 3 seasons. And it was a revelation. It was exciting. They made it
Yes.
exciting. Let's be fair to Sky Sports, their broadcasting at the time,
Brilliant.
the way
Brilliant.
they presented it was brilliant. So I think we're all open and we're sponges to newness because we've been surrounded by it for so long, haven't we, Casey?
Yeah.
As long as we can't afford to have the bread and butter communities of football die on us,
Sophie, do you know something? And this is what I've got to tell you. The Premier League have done such a great job in the way they've marketed, the way they've actually helped clubs, with the parachute payments who go down, etc. They've done a great job because now in the Championship, I think there's about 12 or 13 or 14 clubs who have actually been in the Premier League. Okay? Now, let's say you lose 5 or 6 teams. You can replace them. It's not going to be the spectacle that it once was, but at least the fan bases are still there. Here's the problem though, Sophie, and I mean this genuinely. We can't only be thinking about England. La Liga.
Yeah, I know. It's true.
There was a message left there. La Liga is dead. La Liga will die without Real Madrid and Barcelona and maybe Atletico. It's dead. La Liga is dead because the main money comes in for Real Madrid and Barcelona. So if it's reduced money, then obviously they can't. So Real Madrid and Barcelona would just pick the carcass, and Atletico would just pick the carcass of the best teams, and then it will be whatever it will be. Some of the leagues around Europe.
It's going to be tough. It's not. Listen, we don't live. We're never delusional on this show. We call it like it is, and it's going to be tough for some teams and some communities and some countries. And you're right, Casey. It is a crossroads in our sport, and we're going to keep our eye on it, and we're going to keep on talking about this as new news develops and follows. Very interesting to see once again that Liverpool and Manchester United are at the forefront of this movement. But let's not forget, and let's not throw stones at them, because Juventus have always been and have been very vocal about this European Super League for some time. It's nothing new, but now it actually feels like it has legs. They've been talking behind closed doors, and that apparently there are imminent announcements to come, which shows you.
Yeah. Let's have it right, Sophie. They've all been talking. Trust me on that. It ain't just the teams that have been named. They've all been talking, because who wouldn't want to talk to be in it? You're going to have to want to be in it. So, even if it's tentative talks, you're going to be talking and you're going to be listening.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll keep you posted on this, and it's something we're going to be talking about in the coming weeks for sure, especially how it may affect our Arsenal and what Arsenal do in the coming weeks regarding this. And we all know that the Cronkies are businessmen at the end of the day, and they have multiple businesses and multiple sports franchises. So they're going to be looking for the dollar and their pocketbook. And as much as we fans are purists, that's the struggle with baseball sometimes here in the US, KC. Rule changes, like baseball fans, they call purists, and changes and evolution to the game are very difficult because baseball is such an old sport here. But inevitably, we're living in a time where we're going to have to adapt. And it's the old saying, isn't it, KC? Adapt or die.
Yeah, adapt or die. And look, I'll be honest with you. I think the football community are a smart community. Obviously, they don't want to be taken for fools. But you know what? Change will come, and change is inevitable in the end. So if you support one of the big teams, obviously there could be an opportunity for the team to be playing those prestigious games, and it becomes a global game. So,
right. Yeah. Well, listen, thanks to everyone. You're listening to the Highbury Squad here with me, Sophie, and Mr. Super Kevin Campbell. We appreciate you listening. You can now listen to us live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. I have no idea how to use Twitch, but I just hit the button so the show goes live there. We'll figure that out as we grow. Us Generation Xers getting used to some technology here. But here's one thing that we didn't have the opportunity to talk to KC about. Amanda and I did a post-game show on Manchester City and Arsenal. And just here for a few minutes, I just want to give the floor to KC to give us his feedback on the Manchester City versus Arsenal, because there have been a couple of questions I've been wanting to ask him. And I'm not trying to rain on Arteta's parade. And I think, KC, one of the things we need to be very careful of as Arsenal fans is that as much as we love Arteta and we appreciate everything he's done, and he's definitely moved the club forward, changed the DNA and the culture immediately, and we can see that evolution growing, it's okay to also criticize some of his decisions sometimes. It doesn't mean that you want Arteta out, right?
No,
so for me, I touched on, and then on the agenda, I had Andy Cole's comments, who I know you greatly respect, and you guys have crossed paths many times in your career, talking about how Arteta disrespected Lacazette by playing Willian in that false 9 role. I too felt the same way because you and I talked about maybe Willian or Saka being interchangeable in that 10 role, but it felt like it was almost a ghost 9-10. It felt like there was no cohesiveness for the first time, to be honest with you. So I wanted to get your take on Andy Cole's comments, and then also overall, Hector versus Maitland-Niles, not starting Partey. You were very adamant about throwing him in right away. The kid is ready. The man, I say kid, the man is ready to play. And Oba on the left. So let's take it piece by piece. Lacazette, if you're a striker.
Yeah, I mean, Lacazette would have been hurt by that. Let's be honest. Andy Cole's right. You know, somebody who's not a specialist to play in that position, and we know how much unsung work Lacazette does for the team. And he makes the team better when he plays. And when he's not there, you actually see it. You know, you do actually see it. And to think that Mikel Arteta chose somebody who isn't a specialist in that position to play it, I think that is a bit disrespectful. I know it. The manager will probably have a vision in his head of what he wants to do. But if you're Lacazette, listen, that's my spot. Do you know what I mean? That's my spot. Right. I could do it better than any one of them because that's what I do. So, listen, for me, I think Andy Cole's right. I think Lacazette should have played there. And would we have had a different result? I think we could have had a different result if Lacazette played there.
Because Oba loves playing with him too, doesn't he? Their chemistry.
Exactly. There's a chemistry there. And obviously, Oba, no matter what you do in training, it isn't the games. Oba and Lacazette have played the games now. They've got that relationship, you know what I mean? Telepathy. They've got it. So I think Mikel Arteta missed the trick there. And this is what I would say, Sophie. When you say about, you know, you're critiquing, etc. Let's not forget here, Mikel Arteta is still learning on the job. So he's going to get some things wrong. And he got some things wrong against Man City at the weekend.
He did. But let me ask you this before we get to Oba and Hector and some of the other pieces. Is there the thing that scared me, which is why I went a little bit supersonic on the post-game show, is that I felt for the first time, and there had been a yellow flag, but City's game was a red flag, that I'm seeing a little bit of that Pep arrogance of putting square pegs in round holes that cost Manchester City the semi-final of the Champions League last season, KC, because Pep was too clever with his team selection. And I fear that Arteta, even saying that Partey, you know, only trained for a day and a half, and we know that he's a super professional. Frank Lampard threw Havertz and Timo Werner into Chelsea's team right away. We've seen even, you know, other teams with their transfers from the summer just being thrown into the team right away. That was a bit too clever for me. Does he have that in him? Or is this something we're going to have to be worried about? Or is it still that he doesn't trust everyone? Like, what is it as a player? Talk me through that a little bit.
Well, I just think what must have been going through. Let me give you two scenarios. What I think was going through Arteta's head was Xhaka and Ceballos know exactly what I want. Okay? They know exactly what I want because they've done it before. So what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to upset the apple cart by having to drop one of them. I'm going to have Willian in a position where he's not played for this team before, but Lacazette's going to sit down, but that's going to catch Man City out, if you know what I mean. They're going to think Partey's going to play an XYZ because I know the way Pep thinks. So I'm going to change the dynamic of the team. But changing the dynamic of the team actually tripped himself up. Thomas Partey, by the way, has played in the Champions League.
Exactly my point.
He's played for probably the most demanding coach in world football, right?
Yes.
Now, Arteta, your system is not that smart that this kid can't go in there and work it out.
That's
nonsense to me. It's nonsense. And then to only bring him on for 8 minutes. I mean, that's
what a joke. That's what I was frustrated about
too. That's frustrating. You know, listen, you at least give him half an hour. At least give him a third of the game.
Absolutely.
To find his feet. So, again, Arteta's making mistakes on the job, which, listen, in hindsight, people could say in hindsight, you would say that. I wanted him to start. I didn't want him on the bench. I wanted him to start. No,
you made that clear on the show. You made that very clear that you said that
he's got to start.
Quiet everybody. This guy's ready to start.
He's got to start.
So this is what, when I was talking with Amanda in our post-game show, my beef was Leicester bitch slapped Manchester City. They took advantage of all their weaknesses and they showed them no respect, Casey. They like, you know what? We're just going to go after you. And we're going to go after you in the manner in which we know we can beat you. Liverpool were absolutely schooled by Aston Villa, a team that was 1 point away from relegation and barring a terrible VAR decision against Sheffield United, could have been playing championship football this season. And yet Dean Smith has them rolling and they smash the champions 7-2. This was my biggest beef, was we're the Arsenal. And those are the two games we've lost. And Leicester and Villa managed to beat those teams. Why, Casey? Why?
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. Mikel Arteta is trying to build something, right? He is trying to build an Arsenal that fear nobody. But he doesn't quite trust the team yet. Because defensively, we're not bad. We're better defensively going to Man City. Whereas normally, you know, we got done 3 there in restart, didn't we? You know, so we're better defensively, but he doesn't quite trust that attacking side yet, because it's either we're not quite there yet as an attacking force, or he doesn't have the right pieces just yet. So he's building the defense. You can look at both ways, but this is what I would say. If I was Man City and I saw Aubameyang playing wide, I'm happy. I am happy. I see Willian at the 9, I'm happy. What I don't want is Aubameyang through the middle. I don't want to see Willian on the left or whatever, or on the right. I don't want to see these guys there because these players are going to hurt me. But if I can see Willian as a 9 or whatever, and they're defending deep, perfect. Because he's got such a long way to go before he can get to our goal. Perfect. And I don't think Arteta trusts the team enough to go for it.
But okay, and he's made the choice. I think the club have made the choice to demote Ozil. He's in football jail right now. He's not in the Europa League team. He's not in the Premier League team.
He's not
And
in
there
jail.
are reasons for that.
He's not in
done.
jail. He's out the club. He's out the club. You just don't know it. He's done.
So even though he knows we don't have that creativity, he's actually saying to us as a fan base, listen, even with him, we don't have that. And with him, we don't have what I need my team to do. So I would like everyone to get off the Ozil train now and move on. Is that right, Casey?
Sophie, hold on 1 second. 1 second. All I keep hearing about is creativity. Let me ask you a question, and the people who are listening a question. Who was Liverpool's creativity last season?
Okay, so you asked that question, and the truth is that Liverpool. I've said to you before, not that we're modeling on our rebirth alongside what Liverpool did, but Liverpool started with the front three first, and then they added Alisson and Virgil van Dijk. And won the Champions League. And
but where is their all I keep hearing from Arsenal
there's
fans,
no create. Thiago now is there, but there wasn't an official.
No,
you're right. There wasn't.
Yeah, there was no Thiago.
No.
But they still got the job done.
Their fullbacks were their force. I mean, let's not joke.
Right. So why do people start going crazy about this?
Because we're not doing it. Ozil.
Not about Ozil. Why do people keep talking about Ozil? We need creativity. We need creativity. It don't matter. We never won it with him there. So get off this horse. That's my point. Get off it. Off it.
I agree with you about the Ozil thing, but in terms of having that overtly creative player, we don't have him. We probably really haven't had that creative flair since Alexis and Santi left.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a good question for you and everybody in. Is Saka creative?
It's a great question because I think Saka is hugely talented, and I think he creates for himself.
Is he creative?
Yes, to me he is. Yes.
He is. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Is Willian creative?
At Chelsea, yes, he was definitely creative.
No. Forget at Chelsea. Just as a player, is he creative?
Yes, he can create chances.
Yes. Is Pepe creative?
No. Sorry.
Pepe's not creative. So Pepe,
you know how I feel about him.
No, I know, but I'm just asking. Is Pepe creative?
When he was in France, he was very creative, and he created his own chances, which is amazing, and that's what made us pay 70 million plus for him.
For me, Pepe is creative. He's maybe not shown it where we want him to, but he is creative.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's my point. Is Ceballos creative?
I think Ceballos has creativity in him, but he's been used in a different role. But when you talk about Arsenal having a player that can hold the ball, pass the ball, and break a defense, 100% Ceballos is a creative player and can be.
If he played further forward,
mm-hmm.
I think he can be that creative player.
When Thomas Partey plays.
Right, exactly. So, Xhaka isn't a creative player. Thomas Partey could do everything. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's where we get into. All of those players mentioned can create or do something, create their own shot or do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The problem Arteta's got with Mesut Ozil is he's a one-way player. You cannot afford that anymore. Arsenal are not that good that they can carry a luxury like Ozil. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. Even Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne is the most creative player in the league, but he still gets back, Sophie.
Yes.
He still plays to the system, and he works within the system. Ozil doesn't.
And to be honest with you, the fact that if we kind of show a comparison with Chelsea, for example, Lampard hasn't been asking, it seems like he hasn't been asking Havertz or Pulisic or Timo Werner to be as defensively disciplined because they're so exposed at the back. And a little bit similar with Mourinho. Watch Mourinho go back to Mourinho ball after losing 3 goals in 9 minutes against West Ham.
Yeah.
They haven't had that discipline. And as bad as I thought our performance was, losing 1-0 against the depleted Manchester City side, who are kind of in a bit of a rebuild, if you like, Casey. That's why I was disappointed. You and I both said that this was the game that we could.
It was an opportunity.
It was. That weren't they not there for the taking? They were there.
They were there, Sophie. But again, this is what I will say to you. Because Manchester City are further along that road than us, we see it as an opportunity, don't we? We say, right, we got Partey, we got this one. If the team play as we know they can, we can take them.
Yeah.
But when the team don't play that way, because we weren't that great offensively. We had a couple of chances, and there's a dubious penalty and all that kind of thing, which could have been given. But
we didn't take our chances either, did we?
No,
Saka, bless him. He was the man of the match, but he missed.
Yeah, he was quality, but we didn't take our chances, which can happen. If we'd have taken our chances and we win the game, what do we say? We say good performance. We say good performance.
Well, we say good result. Maybe not good performance.
No, we say good performance because to go to Man City and win, we'll take that. But we're not quite there yet, Sophie. And you know what? I understand Arteta doesn't trust the team just yet. He doesn't. But here's the thing. Pep and his team have been playing in this system for a lot longer than we have under Arteta. So they're a bit more accustomed to what they do. And we ended up, look, it was a crazy goal. People have to be questioned. People have to be questioned now.
Let's talk about Hector real quick.
Yes, people have to be questioned. Now,
right. Hector doesn't start for me anymore. Go on. I want to hear your point of view.
Well, for me, Hector Bellerin has never been a great defender. He's never been a great defender because he's really a winger. Okay? So if he gets done on a defensive assignment, I understand it because he's not a defender. Are there better defenders at the club? Yes, there are. Yes, there are better defenders at the club.
And Maitland-Niles plays better with Pepe. Pepe's a better player when Maitland-Niles is behind him, not Hector. I think we've seen that, no? Is that true?
We've seen that. Yeah, we've seen that. We have seen that. But Hector Bellerin is the incumbent at the moment. He's the one who has the shirt. But remember, this is all decisions that Mikel Arteta has to make.
Okay, let me get to... Go on. Sorry, go on. Finish your thought right there.
No, I just want to say Mikel Arteta is finding out and assessing the squad as we go. I don't think the team that played against Man City in 3 or 4 months' time will be the team. I don't think you'll see it change.
I can see that. So as a striker, I also want to ask you another question because I've seen a lot, and you and I went back and forth a little bit on Aubameyang and creating chances versus, is he the type of player that does that himself? And you taught me a few things about that position and when he plays on that left side, which I greatly appreciated. And at the same time, I think I was hard on him after that game because at some point, a player like him has to insert himself in the game, Casey, to hunt and go gather, right? I also feel like he's kind of a spare dick in a brothel. He's out there and he's getting nothing, right? And it felt like also Saka was, I don't know what it was. There was nothing between the two of them. Can you just really briefly, before we get to a couple of our last bits here on the show, talk me through? I think Aubameyang's been poor since signing his new contract. I'm not criticizing Oba. I love him. He's been our savior, and he scored his goals and was the second highest goal scorer in the Premier League playing on the left last season. Now, all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, he's got to play through the middle. Oh, he's got to play through the middle. Of course, he's probably better served and the team is better served going down the middle. And with no creativity in midfield, he's starved on the left. As a striker, talk me through being pulled by your coach, played out of position, and how that must feel for him right now and what we're seeing with why Arteta's doing that.
Well, it's obviously it's worked for Arteta in the past, so he thinks right. You know, I've got Oba. Oba could function from the left hand side. He can. We've seen him score goals. We've seen him make a massive difference against a lot of the big teams, especially in the FA Cup run at the end of last season. We've seen him be the difference maker, haven't we? But here's the thing, Sophie. Because you're playing against other professional teams, this is what I do know. If I'm playing against Arsenal, somebody else is going to have to beat me. Aubameyang is not beating me. And because he plays on the left, we can scheme for him to make sure we are in the right positions so we don't get done over the top by that longer pass. So we make sure he can receive the ball to feet, but he cannot get the ball on the run for goal. Because if he gets it on the run for goal, he is the worst player to deal with in the league with a head of steam. So that's what we do. We make sure he doesn't beat us. So what does that do? That puts the onus on other players. And we are not quite there yet in the sharing. And that's why I say Lacazette has to play. Because Lacazette has a way how to manipulate.
He scored the most goals too, hasn't he, KC, this season?
Yes, he's got a way how to manipulate. And if Aubameyang's being marked out, somebody else has to step up. And Lacazette's been that man this season. And he's put Lacazette starting on the bench. I just don't get it.
I don't get that. This is where, and I'm glad that you say that, because I think, you know, it's okay to criticize Arteta. He's done some great things. And, you know, we've seen our team evolve. And like we said earlier on in the show, we've really, you know, made lemonade out of some lemons in a sense.
Yeah.
But the Lacazette thing, especially when you know the chemistry he has with Aubameyang, Aubameyang doesn't look as happy when Lacazette isn't playing. So why not infuse that Andy Cole, Dwight York type of vibe and relationship and feed off that? And don't try to be too clever. This is what worries me about being around Pep. All of the great things he's learned being around Pep, Casey, but also the trying to be too clever sometimes when you just, with this particular Arsenal team at this particular time, you just have to keep it super simple. That's it.
Yeah, you do. And you know, Sophie, again, I'm going to go back to it. He is learning on the job. So what did he learn against Manchester City? All that tinkering and trying to be too clever does not work. It doesn't work. Play your best guys, play your best team, and that allows you to go for it.
Yeah.
That's what allows you to go for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I really hope, I don't know, obviously we'll talk about, we're going to be live post the Europa League game on Thursday night with the whole squad. I think, KC, you're going to be around on Thursday. You might be working.
I'm hoping to.
Yeah,
you
might be doing a gig. So that's okay. Amanda and I, and hopefully KC will be back Thursday night after the Rapid Vienna game. Let's really, there's another part of the game that's obviously everyone's talking about. And as a woman, I want to address it with you and I want to get your opinion on it. I was talking to my good friend, Rebecca Lowe, who hosts the Premier League here. We were having a chat privately about it. And she also made her opinions vocal on her lowdown on NBC on YouTube. You can go catch that. There've been a variety of women, including Laura Woods, the host of TalkSport Breakfast, who I really respect and came out with a great comment too. And also some men who have been hugely supportive and see this the way they do. So KC, I want to get your opinion on it. Amanda and I didn't touch on this on the post-game show because we wanted the dust to settle to see what was going to happen and not be too reactionary. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, we women get tainted with that brush and it's unfair. But one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about is because I think we're in a similar situation here in that we've talked about racism on this show and we've had some really great folks like Darren Lewis, the assistant editor at the Daily Mirror, Jordan Jarrett Bryant from Channel 4 News, come on and talk about this with us. We've had your own stories firsthand of being a black footballer. You're part of the TalkSport documentary that has gone out about the history of black footballers in TalkSport. And I can never know what it's like to walk in your shoes as a black man. Yeah. I can support you and I can have an opinion and we can have a conversation as humans and as friends and professionals, but I don't know what it feels like. And I think part of this post event, if you like to call it incident, is that there are some men out there, and let me say, the support that I've gotten from men and women out on Twitter after making a post and kind of allowing myself to be a little bit vulnerable myself, Casey, has been phenomenal. And at the same time, some of the messages that I got were really like, wow, as far as we've come, we haven't come this far. Should it be about her being a woman? No, of course not. But in a time where women are only now just getting the opportunity to have these jobs and to be in this position, of course it's about her being a woman. Do I think Aguero should touch a male official? No. Did it make me uncomfortable even when our Arsenal team, the Sir Alex Ferguson Manchester United team, used to surround the referee and almost bully him into submission to give cards and make results? Barcelona, oh my goodness, the Barcelona Pep team, one of the worst ever we've seen in terms of bullying officials. Wrong. But the truth is, we are in this world where we do have to view it as the fact that she is a woman. And to me, it's, and Robbie Mustoe and Robbie Earl talked about this brilliantly on their Two Robbies podcast too. It just made me feel uncomfortable, and it made them feel uncomfortable. And for me, it was kind of like the lingering hand on the back and the thumb on the neck and the drawing in. And I'm thinking to myself, if someone did that to my mate at a bar, I'd be asking questions. So I'd love your opinion on it too, because I don't think I'm being a melodramatic woman and reacting to something in a way that I shouldn't. I just think that this is a real situation. And the crux of it is that Sian Massey is one of the best lines professionals out there. And at some point, we should be looking at her becoming a referee. And what I want is for her to be treated as an equal, because she's gotten us to this point. She's a trailblazer. She's an agent of change. She's like the US women's national team of '99. She's like Serena Williams. These are more than athletes. These are more than sports professionals. They're agents of change. They open the sport up and they open things up for women. I'd love your thoughts on it.
Well, my first thought on it, to be honest, the visual didn't look good. When I first saw it, I was like, you know, what are you doing? Now, the fact of the matter is, it's a line person, but you cannot take away the fact she's a woman. You can't do that. Now, Aguero wouldn't do that to a man. I can't see Aguero doing that to a man. So if he wouldn't do that to a man, you can't do it to a woman. It's even more so you don't do it to a woman. I just think to myself, why would you ever think about doing that in the first place? So one, the visual's wrong. Two, the act of what he done was wrong. And I'm not saying Aguero's a bad person, but I don't know what came into his head for him to actually do that. Fair enough, speak to her, of course. Listen, it's a high-powered game and there's emotion and he's just come in from being injured, etc. But to put your hands on her in that way, and you could see she was uncomfortable because she kind of done that kind of move.
100%.
You know, but she was very professional in how she handled it. I just didn't like the visual, Sophie. I didn't like it. I thought it was wrong. And obviously you look and see if there's going to be any retrospective card or anything. I'm sure there may be a letter. He gets a letter just to tell him, you know, look, we'll slap you on the wrist this time, Sergio. You know, keep your hands off. And because they don't want to make it bigger than it is. But I didn't like the visual that I saw. I've got to be honest with you. I thought it was bad.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comments, Casey, and you've been a huge supporter of women your entire career and life, and especially on this podcast as well. And, you know, I think that we've got to look at these incidents and talk about them. We're not trying to project anything other than look at what happened and be honest about what happened.
Look at the incident. That's all.
That's it. That's all. Just like we do in every part of every game. So let's see how this rolls. I don't think he's going to get any punishment. I can't remember if I saw an announcement. I was trying to look at some news before we came on air. And if he doesn't, then that's something that I think people need to look into.
Well, I think I think, Sophie, because he doesn't get reprimanded, that doesn't mean he won't get a letter.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Right.
He might just get a letter, or somebody at the club will get a call and he'll be told, listen, it's a no-no. You make sure this never happens again. Because it looked terrible. It did look terrible. And the more you watch it, the worse it gets.
Yeah, and here's the scoop. A lot of some great comments from everyone in chat, and I'm trying to put up everyone's comments on this. And I have to say, we've got some phenomenal male and female listeners on our podcast, and we so appreciate all of your support as always. We have people tuning in from China, Indonesia, Australia, Ghana, Egypt, United States, Brazil. We have people in France. We have someone in my motherland, Cyprus. We're getting more and more listeners as we're getting later, Super Kev, because we're getting everyone from the North Americas and the Asia side.
Listen, we're going to have to do a middle of the night one for me, man.
I'm going to keep you going on because they love hearing your point of view too. So also, can I just get your real quick feedback before I go to our last points here on Pep's response? Because we saw Pep, how he handled the Bernardo Silva moment, which was kind of poor, really, when you think about it, where you just thought, as a manager, you got to say, you know what, he maybe should have thought better, something. And with Pep's stuff sometimes, you often wonder. And so his response was, come on, guys, come on. Sergio's a great guy. In that moment, he could have said, hey, none of my players should put hands on any official. At least that. Do you think that Pep was just kind of blindsided by the comment in the moment, or is this a little bit of kind of how he reacts to these things, Casey?
Yeah, I think Pep has a history of not answering these questions correctly. If you ask me, he's going to back his player, which I understand as a manager. But again, like we said, you have to look at the incident for what it is. Now, if Pep would have said, listen, Sergio Aguero's an absolutely fantastic guy, he's a great guy. He's one of the best I've got in the dressing room. But I'm going to look at the incident and, I'm going to speak to him. Then you could say, fair enough, because he shouldn't be putting his hands on any of the officials. Then you could accept that. But he's just backing him and wholeheartedly. He's not even saying he's done anything wrong.
Yeah, you're reading Fareed's comment here, which I appreciate too. He sees it a little bit differently to everybody else, that we're making a drama out of nothing. We're not making drama. We're just talking about how we see it, Fareed, and we appreciate your opinion. And he's right, though. Culturally, Casey, some people see this completely differently. And that's the truth.
Well, look, the bottom line is, Sophie, whether culturally or not, wherever you are in the world, we're talking about the English Premier League here. And, we're in England, this is the way you behave. We understand that, certain other places have different cultures and all this. But in the English Premier League, that visual was terrible to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate everybody's, the different cultures, etc. But as I say, in England, in the English Premier League, there's a standard to be adhered to. And Sergio Aguero didn't stand up to that standard. And Pep Guardiola, I'm sure, has been told, and I'm sure they would have had a conversation. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Okay, so let's do a quick wrap of, we got through the entire agenda. We've spoken about Arteta, Aubameyang, Lacazette, Ozil, the Sian Massey Aguero, European Football League. And I want to get your take a little bit on the Premier League, just as a quick wrap, in terms of, I feel like there's still hope for us just because of the fact that we see these deficiencies in some of these other teams. We saw Manchester United bounce back and get a win against Newcastle. We've seen Liverpool lose, and we're going to get to a little bit about your other team, Everton, the Jordan Pickford, Virgil van Dijk, the VAR situation in that game, Super Kev. West Ham's comeback against Tottenham, Can we just take a moment to applaud the Hammers? Woo! Some fun stuff right there. And then Chelsea's collapse against Southampton, which, by the way, Southampton they're such an up and down team, aren't they? But when they're on, they're on. Yeah. So, KC, let's start with Liverpool versus Everton. Virgil van Dijk is lost now. Everyone's now, a lot of people, even Jamie Carragher, have come out and said they can't see how they can win the league without Virgil van Dijk. To me, they're a team that defend as a team versus as one player, but we know the importance of Virgil van Dijk. Mm-hmm. Jordan Pickford, that was a bad challenge. Let's not. I know, like, it's your Everton, but the kind of the way everyone's acting like Virgil van Dijk died and signing books and things like that. I'm sorry, that's just going a bit too far. Where was all that emotion for Gomez when Son challenged him? Where was it for Eduardo, Rambo, other players that we've seen in the league over the years? Talk me through that a little bit, what you thought about the VAR decision or non-decision there, and also the offside that may have cost Liverpool that winning goal at the end.
Yeah, well, again, you know what I think about VAR. I don't like VAR. I think VAR has been spoiling the game. I just don't like it because it's too inconsistent. It's too up and down, and there's no consistency to it, Sophie. There's no consistency. You know, consistency is so important. So let's look at the Virgil van Dijk incident. Now, the ball comes across, and listen, rightly so, the goalkeeper is going to come out to try and block that shot because Virgil van Dijk is going to make contact with the ball for a shot. But Virgil van Dijk didn't quite make a good connection. And 100% Jordan Pickford careered into him. He did. And if I look at it, we talk about visuals, of course it could have been a red card. We've seen more than these things given, haven't we? We've seen it. But if we're honest, we've seen tackles, we've seen people get away with a lot worse. With no hullabaloo, with nothing. We've seen a lot of our players' legs have been broken in the past. No hullabaloo. People just get whatever card or whatever, and you get on with it. Everybody gets on the bad end of a decision. Now, the fact of the matter is, because Virgil van Dijk was offside, the ref is taken out the referee's hands because he can't send Pickford off because Virgil van Dijk was offside. So that's the rules. Now, last season, Liverpool were on the right end of quite a few VAR decisions that helped them. Okay? I didn't hear one word about check VAR and this and that and that and that and that. We've seen teams on the bad end of the offside, like Mane, the final goal.
Yep.
Where, I mean, it's minute, but it's offside, for instance. Everybody gets a bad decision. Everybody does. But you just have to get on with it. You do. You just have to get on with it. So I don't think Liverpool are any different than any other team that has had bad decisions or decisions that you don't agree with. But you know what? This is what I always say. I hope when things go for you, these clubs have the same energy that when it goes against you. So when a decision goes for you, I want to hear you come out. No, we need to check VAR when it goes for you, because I never heard Liverpool say anything when it went for them.
But no one's ever going to do that, are they?
Yeah, but so why only do it when it goes against you?
Well, to be fair, Steve Bruce did that, did he not? Earlier this season, with where the handball debacle was kicking in pretty fiercely in those first 2 weeks, Steve Bruce came out and said he could understand why the opposition was upset, and he would be too. So we have seen that with that handball rule, and
Yeah, but remember, Sophie, you've maybe seen it once. What I'm talking about is these people are going on about Jordan Pickford should get banned. Jordan Pickford should get this. It's a decision that got missed. Sometimes it happens. But when it goes for them, they don't say anything. Football is a two-way street. It's two ways. It works both ways. You're going to get some, and some's going to go against you.
Right. And it seemed like I never want to defend Liverpool, trust me, because I feel like sometimes they always scream as being, the victims in games where they've had so much go for them. And we've seen that over the last 18 months. Pickford should have been sent off for that, no? Casey?
Of course he could have been sent off.
No.
Should
he have been sent off?
No, it doesn't matter whether he should have. He wasn't. But could he have been sent off? 100% he could have got a red card. 100%. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the decision why he never got sent off, for instance. Because as the rules state, if the player is offside, you can't then, if he's offside, then that's where it stops. Not from the challenge.
I agree with that. And a little bit like the handball situation, everyone's screaming at the refs and VAR, whereas really they should be screaming at the rules. Right?
Sophie, yes. But here's one for you. Just as a reminder, last season, do you remember when Manchester City played Liverpool at Anfield?
Mm-hmm.
Manchester City should have had a penalty at one end.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't given. Liverpool went to the other end and scored.
Mm-hmm.
When you check the video, it was a penalty. But it was never given.
And that had huge implications.
Of course it did. Of course it had huge implications.
And that happens all the time to lots of different teams.
And this is my point. But you just have to get on with it. There's nothing else you can do. The decision goes against you.
Okay, so let's talk about the offside, the Jordan Henderson goal. Mm-hmm. To me, when I look at, everyone says, look at the line, look at the green line. Okay, I'm looking at the green line, and to me, I see his elbow. And then someone says to me, well, his elbow isn't offside, it has to be his shoulder. Casey, help me understand, explain to me. I thought, maybe I'm in the huge minority where I actually thought that inches, hair's breadth, fingernails, it was the right decision. Am I balmy? Am I?
No, you're not balmy.
And you're not using your Everton hat here, are you, Casey?
No.
Because you don't do that. You're not that kind of pundit.
No. Let me tell you something, Sophie. Liverpool were the better team on the day. Okay? Liverpool were the better team on the day. And Liverpool could have won that game and probably should have won that game. But the fact that they didn't, they kept letting Everton back into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, Liverpool haven't been the same. They haven't been their clinical self from last season. They haven't. So, if it goes to VAR and they check it and they give it offside, right? It's offside.
Sorry, I was just laughing.
No, I know what you were doing. You were reading that. Yeah, I know what you were doing. But here's the other one you see, Sophie. Arsenal play Liverpool at Anfield, and in the first minute, Sadio Mane elbows.
Literally.
He elbows Kieran Tierney.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. Did you hear any?
I haven't seen the book of condolence.
To be checked.
I haven't seen the book of condolence. No, I haven't seen the petition.
No, so again, listen, Virgil van Dijk is an absolutely tremendous player. And the Premier League is a poorer place for him being injured. We don't want to see anybody injured. Of course we don't. But you know what? Injuries, unfortunately, is a part of football. And as Arsenal fans, we've suffered as much as anybody over the years.
And no one said boo about it, to be honest.
And nobody said boo about it.
Yeah.
Even Leno and on the restart getting injured. XYZ. Some say, it was that Mopé who done it. I said it wasn't Mopé. But there's an argument if he don't go in for the ball, if Maupay don't go in for the ball, Leno don't get injured. There's an argument to say that. But we're not going overboard. We have to accept it.
This is what makes me even more upset, and we'll get you guys out here in a couple minutes. Thanks so much for joining, everyone from all corners of the earth. It's been a great show, and Super Kev's insights always top shelf. Amanda will be back on Thursday night. Hopefully we'll all be back Thursday night for a post-game show after the Europa League match. But I love this kind of wrap of the other Premier League teams because it's important. I was livid because of the results with Spurs and Chelsea. And I felt like we missed the moment to not even get a point at Manchester City. And I felt like we could have done that for all the reasons we've discussed, Casey. Chelsea, very vulnerable at the back. Frank Lampard has got to try and get some of his midfield. It seems like Kante is the only defensive player in that midfield going to the forward line. The gap between, I think it's kind of old school Arsenal gap between midfield and defense and that lack of support. And the same thing with Tottenham in that 3-0 up, they think they've won it. Mentally, I think they've got huge issues, but also at the same time, they too have that vulnerability with not having Son or maybe Bergwijn when he's playing have a little bit more of that tracking back.
Yeah.
Does this still give you hope that we can finish in the top four when you look at Chelsea's result? You look at, Man United beat Newcastle convincingly, but Newcastle aren't that great. Tottenham collapse against West Ham. Manchester City, I didn't think they were that great against us. Liverpool now lose Virgil van Dijk. You got Leicester being up and down as a team. You got Wolves kind of maybe not showing who they were last season yet. And Everton, who have been the revelation so far. And let me tell you, I love watching Calvert-Lewin play. He's like a throwback. He's like a hybrid player, a mix of Shearer and Henry and like a whole bunch of, he's a hybrid for me. And so much fun to watch. I can see kids watching him play and wanting to be him, a little bit like wanting to be Steph Curry and shooting threes in the NBA now. Talk me through that a little bit before we jump out here with those teams and us, and if you still see us having a shot.
Yeah, I think Chelsea have a balance issue. They've bought all these wonderful players, but it's how they fit as a team. I don't think they're quite a team yet, and they're gonna have to they're gonna go through some more pain. They are gonna go through some more pain before they come across the right balance. I think that's going to be key. Ziyech, I think, played today. They've still got to get him incorporated in the whole shooting match. And as you say, the defensively, Kante seems to be the only one who bridges like defending. Because when Chelsea attack, they attack with so much force. Mm-hmm. They're vulnerable at the back. Very. And if you don't protect your back four, and this is what we've been saying for years, if you don't protect your back four, you're going to be in trouble. Mm-hmm. And when the likes of Southampton come to Stamford Bridge and score 3 goals, you got problems. You've got real problems. You've got real problems, and I'm sure Frank Lampard is he can't buy. Well, I was going to say he can't buy a clean sheet, but he's got a clean sheet tonight. In the Champions League.
Even Azpilicueta kind of came out and said, didn't he, in the presser, that they've got to score 3 or 4
to
win. And some people have questioned Frank having Jody Morris as his number 2, Casey. And you've been a player. If you were asked to be Arteta's number 2 now, you'd be ready for that role. Do you think that's a little bit unfair on Jody, considering how long he's been in the game?
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, nobody complained last season when they finished in the top 4 to qualify. Nobody questioned Jody Morris then, did they? Mm-hmm. So why would you question him now? It don't make sense to me.
What about our rivals? We can. I'm going to let you have the floor with this one.
Look, let's talk Manchester United quickly.
Okay, Manchester go to United first. Yeah.
Manchester United are still vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Newcastle are all right. And Newcastle just couldn't hold on. They just couldn't hold on because Man United had a bit too much pace in the end for them and know-how. But I don't fear Manchester United whatsoever. I don't fear them. I think you can get at their back line tremendously, and I fancy our chances against them. So I'm not too worried about Manchester United. Now, I remember I'm going to get on to our rivals. Seeing all the comments at 3-0 and all the hullabaloo about, yeah, you're laughing, Sophie, you're laughing. They're
Sorry,
unbelievable.
it could be us. I'm going to try and hold myself, but I won't.
They're an unbelievable team. Look what Mourinho's doing with them now. And I'm just there. I was just there like that. Oh my God!
Talk about premature ejaculation, right there.
Exactly.
Wow.
Shooting your bolt early. You know what I mean? I just couldn't believe it. And in my head, I just said, "Look, West Ham get 1 goal back. It's gonna happen. I just feel it. And as eggs is eggs, they get 1 back. Then they take a step back, Spurs. Then the OG happens. And you know what? You just know it's coming, don't you? We just know it's coming. You know it's coming. And then obviously, what a strike by Lanzini. It's an incredible strike.
Beautiful goal. I mean, forget the timing of it as well. And imagine these are the moments, being a West Ham fan and not being able to be there for that moment. And here's the thing too, Casey. David Moyes has been killed, hasn't he? He's one of those managers that has been shown no respect, even though he's been in the game for a long time, because people feel like maybe his time at Manchester United, I think, has almost dictated his legacy. And let's be honest, he was great for Everton, and you saw the stability he had at Everton after he was no longer their manager. And you had Martinez come in, and you had Koeman come in, and you saw like what stability does to a club. Sir Alex Ferguson, he saw how hard that was, but to kind of navigate the team he did during his COVID and from the sidelines, and to be able to fight back like that. I don't think a Pellegrini West Ham team does that.
They'd go down. They would have went down. That would have been 4 or 5 if it was a Pellegrini team. Obviously, because they just did not mesh, Pellegrini and West Ham. But David Moyes has been there. I think this is his 2nd stint or 3rd stint at the club. So he knows the club, he knows what's needed. And you know what? I think this will do them the world of good. Because you go to Spurs and Spurs are 3-0 up and probably could have wiped the floor with you. But you keep hanging on in there. And you get in at half time and you get a talking to and you come out and you pull a goal back. And then you see the momentum, because football is a momentum game. Harry Kane nearly made it 4, didn't he? And you get a goal back, and
Son's a talented player. I mean, he really is. Let's not.
Listen, they've got some great players. They do have some great players, but it's just become Spursy, isn't it?
It's just
Spursy,
great.
Man. It's
great.
Spursy.
I'm going to buy you a Spursy t-shirt for Christmas.
Spursy,
this show, after your travels and stuff and everything, it was supposed to just be 45 minutes. We're an hour and 20 minutes in, but it has been absolutely superb dialogue with you, Super Kev. Love the conversation tonight. And it really does seem, now with Virgil van Dijk's injury as well, Alisson's still out for a few more weeks.
It's open.
European football back in now. Someone asked a question about, I can't remember who it was, sorry, but I did see your question about, all of these games and injuries coming into play, and it's all going to have an impact, isn't it, Casey? And, he who's the fittest and he who stays the fittest is going to end up being, I think in this season, fitness plays a bigger part more than ever, because I think talent-wise, there's definitely right here. It's right here, right now. And as the season goes on, we don't know how that's going to shape out. But I'm not saying it's the type of season where a Leicester can win again, but I do think it's going to be closer than people think.
Yeah, it could be closer. It could be. But remember, the league doesn't settle down until 10 games are gone, etc. Once 10 games are gone, then everyone's fit. Everyone finds their feet. And then you start seeing, usually the big boys start doing that and the lesser teams start dropping and everyone finds their position.
Is your Everton going to stay in it?
They're going to be there or thereabouts because they've added a Rolls Royce engine into the car. Because you look at the Allen, you look at Decore, and you look at James Rodriguez. Listen, they're three very, very good players. Now, normally, if Liverpool take the lead at Goodison twice, Liverpool end up winning the game. But these guys, Everton didn't play well. Everton fought and scrapped, and they provided a little bit of quality when they could. And that Calvert-Lewin goal, as you quite rightly alluded to, what a leap. Wow. What a great ball in by Digne. And, fantastic centre-forward's header by Calvert-Lewin. He's really showing himself now as a top striker, joint top goal scorer in the league. So why can't they be up there and thereabouts? I think what might catch Everton in the end is the squad depth.
Yeah.
Because if
James gets injured or Decore gets injured, especially that midfield has become so important already.
Yeah.
And the upgrades they've made is amazing. Hopefully, KC, our Rolls Royce will play on Thursday. Surely Partey is going to get a game on Thursday?
Well, he needs a game. He needs a game. We need to see him. We need to get him. Listen, for me, he's the one player you always play. You always play him. He's the key. He's the cornerstone. He's like a Vieira. You don't take liberties with that. You play him. So
surely not Lee Boy. Look at this. Do you remember Leicester just about survived relegation and then they went on to win the league the following year? I can't see Aston Villa winning it, but always fun to look at those things.
Let me tell you one great move that they done. They went and got Ross Barkley.
Yeah, he's been great, hasn't he?
Because
he was a lost soul.
Bro, let me tell you something. You've got more than one person to worry about now, because not only can Jack Grealish do a bit, Ross Barkley could do a bit. So you've got two players to worry about, and then obviously you've got the goal-scoring prowess of Ollie Watkins, who got a hat-trick against Liverpool. So, they've got a little bit of firepower and a little bit of creativity and knowledge now.
And they've got Emmy in goal.
Yeah, they've got Emmy in goal, who's done really, really well. I'm pleased for him. Yeah. I am pleased for him.
Good stuff, KC. Right. At this point, we are going to have to let you go because KC and I could go on for hours, and there's a ton of you in chat right now. We'd love to keep you all here, but please do come join us on Thursday night. Post-Rapid Vienna game in Europa League. We'll also be back at the weekend, of course, with the Leicester game. We've got some special guests coming up for that too. We really appreciate your time. Super Kev, thank you as always for your insights. No problem. We're obviously predicting a win on Thursday, are we not? I mean, we should be winning that game, and hopefully we do see Thomas Partey come out and play in the Arsenal shirt, and then we see that continue at the weekend against Leicester as well.
Time. We need party time, Arteta. Come on.
Because it's actually really a true saying, no Thomas, no Partey. It was the first time, and I believed that. I was like, but it's true. No Thomas, no Partey, and there was no Partey. And not to stay on, but he could have made, I think it was a mistake.
It's a huge mistake.
It was a huge mistake.
Do you know one thing I don't get? This is my last point on that. The one thing I don't get. You fight so hard to bring him into the club. He comes into the club and you leave him on the bench and you bring him on for 8 minutes. That to me don't make sense. He ain't injured, or else he wouldn't be on the bench. He's the best midfielder you got, and you don't put him on the pitch until 8 minutes to go. What's he supposed to do?
I know. I've never been a fan of those kinds of substitutions. This is what used to infuriate me about Wenger, how he used to leave it so late. It was always past the 75th minute mark, wasn't it? Hadn't you expect a player to come on and have an impact? But yeah. All right. Well, anyway, we'll leave you with one thought, and that is always, KC.
It's always Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.
Get in.